Welcome to History Explained, where we illuminate the past to better understand our present. I'm your guide to your daily journey through the past to empower the future. Today is Tuesday, July 22, 2025. As we do every Tuesday, we're exploring the life and legacy of an influential individual whose impact continues to shape our world. Today, we turn our attention to Ernest Hemingway, the American author whose distinctive writing style and larger-than-life persona made him one of the 20th century's most influential literary figures. Born on July 21, 1899, Hemingway revolutionized modern prose while embodying the contradictions and struggles of his turbulent era. What makes Hemingway particularly fascinating is how he transformed personal experience into universal art, creating a literary style that influenced countless writers while living a life that became as famous as his fiction. His iceberg theory of writing and his code of grace under pressure reflected both his artistic philosophy and his approach to confronting the challenges of modern existence. So let's explore the remarkable life of Ernest Hemingway, examining his formative experiences, his revolutionary approach to literature, his engagement with the major conflicts of his time, and the complex legacy he left for both literature and popular culture. Ernest Miller Hemingway was born in Oak Park, Illinois, a prosperous Chicago suburb known for its conservative values and well-manicured respectability. His father, Clarence Edmonds Hemingway, was a physician with a passion for hunting and fishing, while his mother, Grace Hall Hemingway, was a musician and strict Victorian moralist who hoped her son would pursue music rather than the outdoor pursuits he preferred. This tension between his parents' different worldviews would profoundly influence Hemingway's development. From his father, he inherited a love of nature, outdoor sports, and what he would later call the good life of hunting, fishing, and adventure. From his mother, he received musical training and an appreciation for culture, though he would later rebel against her Victorian moral strictures and religious orthodoxy. The Hemingway family spent summers at their cottage on Walloon Lake in northern Michigan, where young Ernest learned to hunt, fish, and navigate the wilderness. These formative experiences in the Michigan woods would provide the setting for some of his most celebrated early stories, including the Nick Adams stories, which drew directly from his childhood observations of nature, death, and human behavior. Hemingway's education at Oak Park and River Forest High School revealed his early literary talents. He wrote for the school newspaper and literary magazine, developing the clear, direct prose style that would later make him famous. Even in these early works, he demonstrated an unusual ability to capture complex emotions through simple, understated language. After graduating from high school in 1917, Hemingway chose not to attend college, instead taking a job as a reporter for the Kansas City Star. This decision proved crucial to his development as a writer, as the newspaper's style guide emphasized short sentences, active verbs, and clear, concise prose, principles that would become hallmarks of Hemingway's mature style. The newspaper's style sheet instructed reporters to use short sentences, use vigorous English, and be positive, not negative. These directives aligned perfectly with Hemingway's natural inclinations and provided professional training in the economical prose style that would later revolutionize American literature. World War I provided Hemingway with his first major life-changing experience. Unable to join the military due to poor eyesight, he volunteered as an ambulance driver with the American Red Cross in Italy in 1918. On July 8, 1918, while distributing supplies to Italian soldiers near Fossalta di Piave, Hemingway was severely wounded by mortar fire. Despite his wounds, Hemingway carried an injured Italian soldier to safety, an act that earned him the Italian Silver Medal of Bravery. However, the physical and psychological trauma of this experience would haunt him for the rest of his life. His legs were filled with shrapnel fragments, some of which remained embedded in his flesh permanently. More significantly, the experience introduced Hemingway to what he would later call the moment of truth, the instant when death becomes a vivid, immediate reality. This confrontation with mortality would become a central theme in his writing, as he explored how individuals maintain dignity and courage when facing inevitable death. During his recovery in a Milan hospital, Hemingway fell in love with Agnes von Kurowski, an American nurse 7 years his senior. Their relationship, though ultimately unsuccessful, provided material for his novel, A Farewell to Arms, and established a pattern of tumultuous romantic relationships that would characterize his entire life. Returning to the United States in 1919, Hemingway struggled to readjust to civilian life and felt disconnected from American society, which seemed oblivious to the war's psychological impact. This sense of alienation would later fuel his identification with the lost generation of expatriate Americans living in Europe during the 1920s. In 1921, Hemingway married Hadley Richardson and moved to Paris, where he worked as a foreign correspondent for the Toronto Star while pursuing his literary ambitions. Paris in the 1920s was experiencing an extraordinary cultural renaissance, with American expatriates drawn by favorable exchange rates and a vibrant artistic community. Hemingway quickly became part of this expatriate circle, which included writers like Gertrude Stein, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Ezra Pound. Gertrude Stein became particularly influential, introducing Hemingway to modernist literary techniques and coining the term lost generation to describe their cohort of war-traumatized young Americans. Under Stein's influence, Hemingway developed his famous iceberg theory of writing, which held that the surface elements of a story should reveal only a small portion of the whole, with the deeper meaning residing in the subtext. This technique required readers to infer emotional content from what was left unsaid, creating a new form of literary realism. Hemingway's first major literary breakthrough came with the publication of In Our Time, in 1925, a collection of short stories and vignettes that established his reputation as a serious writer. The book's spare, understated prose style and focus on characters confronting violence and loss marked a significant departure from the more elaborate literary styles that had dominated American fiction. The success of In Our Time was followed by The Sun Also Rises, in 1926, Hemingway's first major novel. The book captured the disillusionment of the lost generation through its portrayal of American and British expatriates traveling from Paris to Pamplona for the running of the bulls. The novel's protagonist, Jake Barnes, wounded in the war and unable to consummate his love for Brett Ashley, embodied the emotional devastation that the war had inflicted on an entire generation. The Sun Also Rises established Hemingway as the literary voice of his generation while introducing his famous Hemingway Code, the idea that individuals must maintain grace under pressure, demonstrating courage and dignity in the face of a universe that offers no inherent meaning or purpose. This existential philosophy would become central to all his major works. The novel also revealed Hemingway's fascination with what he called grace under pressure, particularly as exhibited in dangerous activities like bullfighting, big game hunting, and war. These pursuits, which critics would later label Hemingway's obsession with machismo, represented for him testing grounds where individuals could prove their worth through courageous action. Throughout the late 1920s and early 1930s, Hemingway continued to develop his literary reputation with works like A Farewell to Arms, 1929, which drew on his World War I experiences to create a powerful anti-war novel. The book's famous ending, in which the protagonist walks away into the rain after his lover dies in childbirth, exemplified Hemingway's ability to convey profound emotion through understated, seemingly simple prose. During this period, Hemingway also developed his passion for big game hunting, making several trips to Africa that would provide material for stories like The Short Happy Life of Francis Macomber and The Snows of Kilimanjaro. These African experiences reinforced his belief that confronting danger and death could reveal essential truths about human character. The Spanish Civil War, 1936-1939, provided Hemingway with another formative experience that would significantly influence his work. As a correspondent covering the conflict for North American Newspaper Alliance, he witnessed the brutal ideological struggle between fascist and Republican forces while forming deep emotional connections with the Spanish people. Hemingway's experiences in Spain inspired For Whom the Bell Tolls, 1940, widely considered his masterpiece. The novel, set during the Spanish Civil War, tells the story of Robert Jordan, an American fighting with Spanish guerrillas behind fascist lines. The book's title, taken from John Donne's meditation on human interconnectedness, reflected Hemingway's growing belief in the importance of human solidarity against injustice. For Whom the Bell Tolls demonstrated Hemingway's evolution as both a writer and a political thinker. While his earlier works had focused on individual responses to an absurd universe, this novel suggested that individuals could find meaning through commitment to causes larger than themselves. The book became both a critical and commercial success, solidifying Hemingway's reputation as one of America's greatest writers. During World War II, Hemingway served as a war correspondent in Europe, covering D-Day and the liberation of Paris. His wartime experiences provided material for Across the River and Into the Trees, 1950, a novel that received mixed reviews but revealed his continuing preoccupation with themes of love, death, and the passage of time. However, it was The Old Man and the Sea, 1952, that restored Hemingway's literary reputation and earned him both the Pulitzer Prize and the Nobel Prize in Literature. This short novel about an aging Cuban fisherman's epic struggle with a giant marlin distilled Hemingway's major themes into a powerful allegory about human dignity in the face of defeat. The novella's deceptively simple story of Santiago's battle with the marlin operates on multiple levels, serving as a meditation on courage, persistence, and the relationship between humanity and nature. The old man's ultimate failure to bring the fish home intact becomes, paradoxically, a victory of the human spirit over circumstances beyond individual control. Despite his literary success, Hemingway's later years were marked by declining health and increasing psychological instability. A series of accidents and illnesses, combined with his lifelong struggle with depression and alcoholism, gradually undermined his ability to write and enjoy life. 2 plane crashes in Africa in 1954 left him with serious injuries, while his legendary drinking began to affect both his health and his relationships. Hemingway's personal life was consistently turbulent, marked by 4 marriages and numerous affairs. His relationships with women were complex and often troubled, reflecting both his deep need for companionship and his difficulty maintaining intimate connections. His treatment of his wives and lovers often contradicted the code of honor he celebrated in his fiction. Throughout his career, Hemingway cultivated a public persona that often overshadowed his literary achievements. His image as a hard-drinking, adventure-seeking man's man appealed to popular culture while sometimes obscuring the serious artistic purposes behind his work. This cultivation of celebrity status would influence later generations of writers who sought to emulate his fame as much as his literary technique. Hemingway's influence on American literature cannot be overstated. His spare, understated prose style revolutionized modern fiction, proving that powerful emotions could be conveyed through simple, direct language. His iceberg theory of writing influenced countless writers who learned to trust readers' ability to understand complex emotions through subtext and implication. The Hemingway Code became a widely recognized philosophy for confronting life's inevitable challenges with dignity and courage. This existential approach to living influenced not only literature but also popular culture, contributing to changing definitions of heroism and masculinity in the mid-20th century. His focus on dialogue and action rather than internal monologue helped establish a more cinematic approach to fiction that influenced both literature and film. Many of his works were successfully adapted for movies, further extending his cultural influence beyond the literary world. However, Hemingway's legacy is complicated by criticism of his treatment of women and his celebration of violence as a path to authenticity. Feminist critics have noted that his female characters often serve primarily as objects of male desire or symbols of life-giving force rather than fully developed individuals in their own right. Similarly, his fascination with war, hunting, and bullfighting has been criticized as promoting an outdated and potentially dangerous concept of masculinity. Some scholars argue that his influence contributed to cultural attitudes that glorify violence and risk-taking while devaluing more peaceful forms of courage and achievement. Despite these criticisms, Hemingway's technical innovations continue to influence contemporary writers. His demonstration that profound themes could be explored through simple, direct prose opened new possibilities for literary expression. His integration of autobiographical experience with fictional narrative established new forms of personal writing that influenced the development of creative nonfiction. Hemingway's international perspective, gained through his experiences as an expatriate and war correspondent, helped establish American literature as a global rather than merely national phenomenon. His works have been translated into dozens of languages and continue to find new readers worldwide. On July 2, 1961, Ernest Hemingway died by suicide at his home in Ketchum, Idaho, ending a life that had been marked by extraordinary achievement and profound personal struggle. His death shocked the literary world and prompted extensive examination of the relationship between artistic genius and psychological instability. In retrospect, Hemingway's suicide can be understood as the final chapter in a life lived according to his own demanding code. Faced with declining mental and physical health that prevented him from continuing the activities that gave his life meaning, he chose to end his life on his own terms rather than accept what he viewed as an unacceptable diminishment of his capabilities. Today, Ernest Hemingway's influence extends far beyond literature into popular culture, philosophy, and even lifestyle choices. His image as a writer-adventurer continues to inspire those who seek to combine artistic achievement with active engagement with the world. The Hemingway Society, established in 1980, continues to promote study of his work and its influence on contemporary culture. His former homes in Key West, Florida, and Finca Vigia in Cuba have become museums that attract thousands of visitors annually. The International Imitation Hemingway Competition, held annually in Key West, demonstrates the continuing popular fascination with his distinctive prose style. Modern writers continue to grapple with Hemingway's legacy, either embracing his techniques or deliberately rejecting them in favor of alternative approaches. His influence can be seen in the work of writers as diverse as Raymond Carver, Tobias Wolff, and numerous contemporary authors who employ minimalist prose styles. As we reflect on Ernest Hemingway's life and legacy, we see an individual who embodied both the possibilities and the contradictions of his era. His artistic achievements demonstrated the power of disciplined craftsmanship and authentic experience, while his personal struggles revealed the costs of living according to demanding personal codes in an increasingly complex world. Hemingway's greatest contribution may be his demonstration that literature could address the most profound human concerns through accessible, seemingly simple language. His belief that writers should tell the truth about human experience, regardless of how uncomfortable that truth might be, continues to inspire those who seek to use art as a means of understanding and confronting reality. Thank you for joining us for this exploration of Ernest Hemingway's life and legacy. Tomorrow, we'll be back with our World Events episode where we'll be examining the Watergate scandal and its profound impact on American politics and public trust in government. If you enjoyed this journey through history, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. How do you think Hemingway's approach to writing and living continues to influence contemporary culture? Let us know in the comments section below. For our members, this Sunday we'll have a special roundup analyzing how current literary and cultural developments connect to the historical patterns of artistic innovation we've been examining in this series. Until next time, I'm your guide for History Explained, where we believe that understanding yesterday is the key to navigating tomorrow.